So for this lab, you'll need to select an album to collect some data. So I've chosen Either Or by Elliott Smith, a Portland artist. And I can grab the length of each song, each track length, pretty easily from the Wikipedia article. This is a great place to look. Just go on Wikipedia, search for your album, and you'll usually find a track listing, which might be easier than getting it from elsewhere. Alright, so now I need to put this data into my calculator. So first I'm going to clear this list off. An easy way to do that, if I go up and highlight this and press clear, it'll clear out the whole list. Don't press delete or you'll delete the list, which is bad. Alright, so I'm going to put this in, and I'm thinking I'd rather have each of these data points in as just plain seconds. I think that'll be easier to work with than doing 3 minutes and 1 second. Alright, I can just do 181 seconds. Now, one nice thing about putting this into the calculator is I don't have to think too hard. This would be 3 minutes, which is 180 seconds plus 43, but I can just let the calculator do the work. 180 plus 43, cool, so 120 plus 48, and so on, and it'll add those up for me. So you can actually put expressions into your list, which can be really, really useful. Alright, so I'm on number 4 here, so again, 120, 21, and so on. So I'll get all this in there, and then we'll meet up again in a second. Alright, so I've got everything in here, and just kind of checking through my data. One thing I noticed is that these song lengths are super consistent. Almost all of them are right around 3 minutes long. So to help me do my analysis and help me graph, I'm going to use 1var stats. So I'm going to press stat, go over to calculate, and choose 1var statistics. Again, we leave frequency list blank, and I can get some information. So right away we see the average is 184 seconds, so 3 minutes and 4 seconds. And we can also get a 5-number summary, which we'll need for our box plot. So for my second album here, I've chosen Abbey Road by the Beatles, and of course my box song. Sorry about that. Cool, so we can see the track list. Again, same place, a lot more info here. But this album's a little bit longer. You can see we have 6 plus 11, we have 17 tracks. And this one might have some outliers. We've got a song that's only 23 seconds long. We've got one that's nearly 8 minutes long. So we might get a more interesting distribution, whereas with Either Or, we had really consistent length. So I've already gotten my one variable statistics from Either Or, and you can see that I've put in the data from Abbey Road, again, changing things to seconds. And of course, when we have something like this, you can just put in the expression. Okay, so now I want to get my 1var stats, my one variable statistics from Abbey Road, which is in list 2. So instead of list 1, I'm going to choose list 2 here and get some info from that. Cool, so the average length for Abbey Road is a little bit shorter. Okay, and then again, this is all in seconds. Our standard deviation is 97.98. We'll round up there. Notice I'm using the population standard deviation since we know the whole album length. We're not taking a sample. It's minimum 23 seconds. We saw that a second ago. And here are our other 5-number summaries. Cool. So I'm going to set up my parallel box plot and figure out if either of these albums have some outliers. Alright, so you can see I've got my scale set up for my box plot. I had to have a pretty big range. I had a minimum of 23, a maximum of 467. Those are the biggest numbers I have to fit onto this graph. So I had to go from 20 up to 460. So think about how big your scale needs to be, plan ahead, and you can see I used a ruler here to kind of measure off equal distances to make it nice and neat. But you don't have to do that, but do take some time to make it look pretty good. Alright, so the next step is going to figure out if we have any outliers. So you can see I've already got the box from our box and whisker plot on here using Q3, Q1, and the median for each Abbey Road and Either Or. The next thing I did is I found what is 1.5 times the IQR. This will tell us where the boundary is for being an outlier or not. So you can see what I did for Either Or. I've already got it set up. I can see where my fences are. So I found out that 1.5 times the IQR is 88.5. Again, IQR is just Q3 minus Q1. That's how I got this number. All right, so if I multiply that by 1.5, I get 88.5. So if a data point falls more than 88.5 units away from the box, then it's going to be an outlier. So you can see I found where those points were at 68 and 304. If I look at my data, my smallest song in this album was 139. So we don't have any low outliers, and we also don't have any high outliers because all of our data is within this fence. Let's do the same thing for Abbey Road. So again, I found my IQR by subtracting these two numbers, and then I multiplied it by 1.5. So if a song is more than 170.25 lower than Q1, that's not going to happen. That'll be a negative number. That's over here somewhere. I don't even need to calculate that. Okay, so we know we don't have any low outliers. What about a high outlier? So starting at Q3 at 207, I'm going to add 1.5 times the IQR. So 207 plus 170.25. So that gives me 377.25. That's my upper fence. So that'd be right around here. 370, what did I say? 377.25. So if a song is shorter than 377 seconds, then it is not an outlier. But if it's longer than 377 seconds, it's not going to be part of the whisker. We're going to have to show it as an outlier. And we can see we do have at least one outlier because our maximum is bigger than this. So I'm going to get those plotted and come back. All right, so I've already plotted the whiskers for either or. You can see we've got a pretty tight distribution here like we predicted. The minimum's at 139, so really short whisker. The maximum's at 226, so again, short whisker. And we know that everything's within our fence. There are no outliers in the first album. For Abbey Road, it's a different story though. So our minimum is 23, and we already showed that our fence would be like a negative number, so we definitely don't have any negative outliers. So we can go ahead and extend our left whisker, try to make that straight, all the way out to about 23. And then over here things get a little trickier. We know that we have at least one song that's beyond our whisker, so I'm going to go ahead and plot that. So we have a song at 467, but now I need to go back and look at all the songs and see, are there any other data points higher than 377.25? So I've already got this in my list converted to seconds. So I'm going to go over here, see either anything bigger than 377. Nope, it's just that one really long song. Cool. So what I want to do is go ahead and extend the whisker to the next largest song, right? We don't go all the way out to the fence. We just go to the next longest song that's not the outlier. So think about this as like kind of a special maximum that's outlier, and we want to find the next biggest maximum for our whisker. Okay, so let's see. We got a 243, 259. That might be the biggest one. What just happened? Sorry. All right, 259's looking pretty good. Yeah, we got nothing longer than that. So 259 is our next biggest maximum. So that's going to go right here. Extend our whisker to the next biggest number. So the last thing you want to do is compare the distributions that you chose. So remember to compare the center, unusual features, shape, and spread. So for the center, we want to compare the median since we already have these ready. But since neither of these are terribly skewed, we could also compare the mean if we wanted to. But we have the box plot set up, so we could say something like either or had a median song length of 182.5 seconds, 3 minutes and 2.5 seconds, compared to Abbey Road, which was shorter, just over 2 minutes and 5 seconds. 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Bad math. Cool. We can also compare the shape. Either or is beautifully symmetric. It's harder to tell with what the shape is going to be with your box plot, but here we see that the median is right in the middle of your box. Our whiskers are about the same size, so this is really, really nice symmetric data. Abbey Road, on the other hand, is a little confusing. So our median is to the right side of the box plot, which actually indicates that it's left skewed. Okay, so you can see that the left side of the box plot is a little bit longer, so this might be negatively skewed or left skewed. Although, because we have this big outlier to the right, this big positive outlier, that makes it a little harder to really describe the shape. So I think it's a little bit left skewed, although we do have this one big outlier. If you're having trouble deciding what the shape is of your distribution, if it doesn't come out really nice and symmetric, you might want to graph this as a histogram to get a better idea of the shape. Or a dot plot is fine as well. It can really help you visualize that shape. As far as the spread goes, that's easy enough to compare. We could compare range, but it's not really fair because Abbey Road does have this outlier, so that would tell us our range is way bigger than is really true since the next biggest point is so small. So a better way to compare spread would be to compare these IQRs. Either way, we do see that Abbey Road has much more variability or spread than either or. Okay, and lastly, unusual stuff. We want to say that either or is really consistent data with no unusual features, no outliers, whereas Abbey Road has one positive outlier.